Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today on the webinar of our new Itinerary Builder. It seems that most people have come in now, so I'm going to kick this off. My name is Terry and I'm the Operations Manager at Wetu, and I'm going to be taking you guys through this webinar on our new Itinerary Builder. As we've got an hour to get through this, I'm going to just give you guys a little bit of background about why we went about making the changes to the builder and what we changed, give you a quick demonstration on the new itinerary builder, and then go into a Q&A session. So while I do the demonstration, please feel free to put any questions that you have in the questions section of this, and I will try and get to as many as possible during the Q&A session. If we don't manage to get through all of them, our support team will get back to you via email, so please fill in anything that you would like to know about in that question section. This webinar is also getting recorded, so it will be available afterwards for you to watch again or pass on to anyone who wasn't able to attend the webinar. All right, so with this itinerary rebuild, the itinerary builder rebuild, this was something that has been coming on for a while. And the reason that we decided to go ahead with this rebuild now was because this itinerary builder that we had was built back in 2010, so just a year after Wetu actually started. And it was the same year that the first iPad came out. So it was a little bit of success on that front, but the unfortunate part was that we had to build it in Adobe Flash. And so as excited as we were that the new iPad had come out, it wasn't actually compatible. And so one of the big things that we did from a technical perspective is actually move the builder completely out of Adobe Flash and rebuild it from the ground up. Because we were doing this, another thing that we know is that it had no responsiveness. So when it was built, because it was in Adobe Flash, it only worked on desktop, and obviously things have come a long way in the past couple of years, and this restriction has been quite frustrating for a number of our clients. Also, because of how it was built and the way that Adobe Flash works, we had a very small sort of frame in which we could build the itinerary builder and how it would work. And in the beginning when it started, it was a pretty simple idea, but over 7 years that we've been building on it, there have been a whole bunch of additions to the functionality that we've basically crammed inside of that small framework. So this was another big reason why we needed to upgrade the itinerary builder, was to give it a new look and give it some new tech, but also make way for a whole bunch of new awesome features that we're hoping to add into the itinerary builder over the next couple of years. And the final reason was, again, a little bit more on the tech side of things, but we needed to upgrade the way that our data is structured for content that does not live on the map. So accommodation or activities, things like that were pretty easy for us to handle because it's sort of static and lives in a specific point. And as most of you know, Wetu is map-based. So when it came to sort of this mobile accommodation, it gave us a new challenge and a new thing that we had to do in order to handle it. So that is things like boats and trains, or RVs, or mobile safaris for those of you who South Africa. So that was a big part of this rebuild as well. And so a lot of these changes that we've done are sort of under the hood and things that you guys won't notice too much, but they are really done in a way that will help us put a really good foundation together for all of the cool things that we hope to add into the itinerary builder. So that's just a little bit of background about what led us to this point and what led us to redoing the itinerary builder after all of this time. So I'm going to move straight on into the itinerary builder because that's sort of the fun part. You will see, most of you by now should have noticed that you have got a new button on your dashboard. So The button on your dashboard that is blue is for the new itinerary builder, whereas the other old itinerary builder is the button underneath that. All that you need to do is click on the itinerary builder button. Okay, and that will then open the new itinerary builder. So depending on what package you have with Wetu, you will have different options, but the fundamental information that you're looking for will be here. So for this example, I'm going to take you through a personal itinerary to show you what functionality we have introduced into the itinerary builder, and also just to show you where functions that were there, how we've kind of moved them around and adapted it. So I'm going to move straight into personal itineraries that are existing. So once the screen loads, you'll see that we have made it a little bit more user-friendly and added a couple of more columns in. And this primarily was done to simplify the way that you search for itineraries that are listed in the system. So for those of you who have been with us for a really long time, you sort of have what seems like an infinite list of itineraries. And by moving a couple of things around here, we hope that it would make managing and searching and filtering for those itineraries easier. So each of these columns here are now sortable, and all that you need to do to sort it is click on the name of the list or the column, or alternatively you can actually type in the search bar, so like under the name of itinerary or client, you can put the information there that you're looking for and it will filter accordingly. So because we introduced this, another thing that we did for those of you who have a number of itineraries is infinite scroll, which basically means that your itineraries, once you have a lot of them, will disappear off the bottom of the page, but as you scroll, they will continue to load. So the buttons that we used to have down there have now just been moved because we can do cool things like this, and that allows us to have these options underneath or behind the itinerary itself. Exactly the same options that you had before are now here. You can still copy in the multiple ways that you could before. Edit, preview, post it. If you are looking at transferring an itinerary, you can do that as well. And then there's a couple of other functionalities in here that we've just made a little bit easier. So if you want to lock or unlock an itinerary, you simply click on the button, it'll slide it across and then make that itinerary locked. And the same for disabling or enabling an itinerary. Here, you also have quick access to the URL for the itinerary as well as the mobile code. Again, like I mentioned earlier, depending on the package that you have with us, some of these options might be a little bit different, but this will give you a gist of the information and where you can find it. So I'll come back to tags in a little bit, but the last of the filtering functionality that we have added is the filter button on the top corner of the screen. If you click on it, it will then bring a slide out option for you to filter with. So here, for example, what you can do is if you're looking for any itineraries that include a particular property, you can simply type in the name of the property and select it as you would if you were building an itinerary, and it will then filter your options down on the left-hand side to any itineraries that include that accommodation. So you can have more than one accommodation if you are looking for an existing itinerary that has multiple accommodations in it. So say you get a request for an itinerary where you know that you've built something similar before and you know it's got relevant accommodation in it, you can simply search for those accommodations and it will filter your itineraries down. Similarly, just underneath that, you have got destinations and country. This is the same principle, but just for those. So if you're looking for something that has got Element House in Cape Town, as well as a property or something that is situated in Sydney, you can type that destination in, and it will then shrink the results on the left-hand side down based on what's included in that itinerary. You can also then search by number of nights, and finally by those tags and labels again. So what tags and labels are is our first attempt at helping you with another type of filtering and searching option. A lot of clients who have been using the system for a while said that it was difficult for them to track down itineraries that they have built before, either because they needed a way that they could filter by price, or they needed a way that they could filter by a theme, such as beach or family or honeymoon. And so what we have done is inside of your admin panel, you will see that halfway down the page, you have an option called Builder Tags and Labels. What this is a way for you to create those tags and labels yourself. So by default, we give you a couple, but you can remove those and put your own tags and labels in. So for example, if you primarily deal with self-drives, you can change all of those labels and tags to something that's self-drive, as well as something like a price bracket. So if you have an itinerary that you believe is priced or in the range of $1 to $5, you can create that tag, and when you build that itinerary, you can then go and tag that itinerary with that price. So next time you're searching for something in that price bracket, you can simply go into your itinerary browser, into your tags and labels section, and then look for something that's in that $1 to $5 price bracket, or something that is honeymoon and has got a property in it. So the only complication with tags and labels, or something that you'll just need to keep in mind, is these are for internal use only. So you can really set up as many or as few as you want to help you define and filter through your itineraries. And then you have the option of, once you've built an itinerary, actually assigning tags to that particular itinerary. So when we go into the Itinerary Builder, I'll show you where you do that and how you tag your itinerary, but that's to give you an idea of where tags and labels are and their intended use. I'm now going to move on into the Itinerary Builder, but as I said before, if you have any questions as I go, please feel free to put them in the question section, and as soon as we get to Q&A time, I'm happy to go through as many of them as possible. So this is inside our new Itinerary Builder, and you'll see that our designers have done an amazing job in making it hopefully a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier for you to work with. And we've also tried to free up some space. As I said previously, now that we have this option where we can scroll quite a bit more and do things in a little bit more of a linear timeline fashion, it has really given us some more space to put some options in for you guys, and has also created a great fundamental basis for us to build some new stuff in here as we go. So on this screen, there are only a few changes. The main biggest one is T's and C's. And what this allows you to do is basically enter terms and conditions for this particular itinerary. Previously, or what we have at the moment, is you could put your trading terms and conditions or company terms and conditions inside of your admin panel, but those would only show all the time for all of your itineraries, but not really be tailor-made to that specific itinerary. So what you can do is now per itinerary actually put the information in that is for this particular itinerary, and it will then show alongside the price inclusions and price exclusions of the itinerary, and on the same outputs as before that your clients will then have access to. Not only does this show on your digital outputs, but it will also show on your printable outputs that come out of Wetu as well. So I'm going to open another itinerary. I just wanted to show you this one because it had got the terms and conditions entered in it. But for the rest of this, I'm going to take you through this particular itinerary. So another feature that was in the previous Itinerary Builder but wasn't something that was really used much, and during our research for this, we found that it was actually something that was quite requested but just wasn't highlighted in the right way, and that is the special interest section. So this is similar to tags, but this is actually client facing. So if you're building an itinerary that is for a specific theme, such as a culinary tour, you can put special interests that belong to that particular tour here. And all that you need to do is type it in as normal free text and push enter, and it will then add that to your itinerary as a tag, and this will show on the overview screen for the client. As with most of the other fields in Wetu, if you don't have any of these special interests in place, it will simply omit that field from any of your outputs. On all of our text fields, we have now introduced these little notification icons in the top corners, and what that is so that you can be aware of when there is text sitting behind that tab. So again, we found that a number of people make copies of their itineraries, and in changing things and trying to get it out as quickly as possible, in some cases they forgot to check behind every tab and make sure that they removed any notes that were no longer applicable to the itinerary that they were potentially passing on to a new client. And so with these little red notifications, anytime that there is text there, it'll have a little notification. As soon as you move the text out, the little notification disappears. So it is just a nice little way for you to make sure that you have checked everything if you are making a copy, or also if you have filled everything in if you are building it for the first time. On all of our text fields, we have now also introduced the ability for you to use bold, underline, and italics. So you can simply highlight the text and select what you would like to create with it. And in addition, you can also click on these green expander buttons in the bottom right corner, and it will open up a bigger text field for you to work inside of. So this is pretty useful if you have got quite a bit of text that you need to put in. Then as you write here, this box will continue to expand so that you have got quite a nice bigger area to work in. If you are copying information out of another document as well, this does make it nicer to check before you move on to your next tab. So those are all of the changes that we have done inside of the accommodation details section. So I'm going to move on to the next step, which is the accommodation step. In the accommodation step, we have made quite a few changes here, but none of them are very dramatic. Because we had a little bit more space to work with now, we've actually put things where they should properly be. Before, like I said, we had to kind of cram things in a number of places, but this layout makes it a bit easier for us to put things in a way that's easier for you to access. So the first thing is the dates. You can now enter the dates as before using the little calendars, or if you click clear dates, it will turn it into a dateless itinerary. You can also now, by clicking on the blue plus sign, expand the option to show accommodation, add component, overnight travel, and own arrangements. We have introduced this in between each of the arrangements that you set up to make it easier for you to slot something in. So in this particular itinerary or example, between Dubai and Phuket, if we wanted to put another arrangement in, you can now simply click on the blue button, expand the options, and click what you would like to add between these two arrangements. Previously, you would have had to go all the way down to the bottom, put in whatever your service is, and then try and drag it to where it belongs. So hopefully this will make things a bit easier, particularly when you're working on longer itineraries. But we did not do away with the drag and drop functionality. So as before, simply hold on the letter for that accommodation and move it up or down to where you would like it to be, and it will rearrange accordingly. So one of the simple things that we added that was requested quite a lot is the ability for you to preview your content before the output. Clicking on the eye icon next to your accommodation will do just that. It will open up a preview of the content that you can then see before it gets to the end of your itinerary outputs. However, something that is important to keep in mind about those previews is currently it only shows supplier loaded content. So if you have got custom content that you have loaded or translated content, it will not show on those previews. So those are enhancements that we are currently aware of and that we are trying to implement. But for now, it is just the standard supplier information that does show. The next change that we have done is to room details. If you click on the room details button, it will open up a slightly more comprehensive matrix of room types and configurations. The reason that we have made this change is because in the old Itinerary Builder, you could only have one room type per configuration. What I mean by that is if you had booked 3 double rooms, and 2 of them were a mountain view room and 1 of them was a forest view room, you would not be able to indicate that clearly. Now that is very simple and easy to do in this, and it will then reflect accordingly on your relevant outputs. So what I was talking about before with regards to better support for mobile is what brings me to our next feature, and that is the ability for you to now select whether you want something to be day by destination, or mixed day. So as you know, this affects what's inside of the planner. Day by day will allow you to put information in per day. By destination will group a number of days together, and mixed day will now allow you to do a mix of both. So I'm going to just change the number of nights at this property to show you what mixed day looks like. So here you will see that you now have the full layout of the 10 days at this property in Phuket. And what you can now do is choose how you would like to display the information in your planner step. So if on the arrival day you have got arrangements for them, but for day 2, day 3, and day 4, it is at their own arrangement, you can now put those together so that these will be grouped by destination. Then you've got an activity plan for day 5 and day 6, so that you would like to have standalone because you've got information that you would like to put in there, then you can do that. But then the rest of the arrangements are again at their own leisure. So again, you can now group those together. So this is the simple example of what mixed leg does, but it just allows you to choose day by day and by destination. So now when I save this grouping on my planner step, it is now going to break it up accordingly. So this is really nice when it comes to things such as boats or trains, where quite a period of time you are on that specific vessel and there isn't anything additional that they're going to be doing. You can now use the by destination for that. The final thing that we have brought to the sort of forefront on the accommodation step is the ability for you to reverse your itinerary. So if you click on the option here on the top right hand side, it is going to completely flip your itinerary around, and that effect also does what is you have put in the route builder as well as the planner. So if this is an itinerary that you're coming back to and you've already put your routing in and your day by day information, as when you drag and drop an accommodation and it moves that information for you, the same principle applies when you reverse an itinerary. It will completely flip the itinerary as well as the routing and planner around, although it is not completely foolproof and you do still need to go into the route builder and just make sure that your flights and things particularly make sense. Another thing that has sort of tripped a number of people up is just the movement of the overnight travel button. So the functionality is exactly the same as it was before. We have just made the button move a little bit, so that is where it is if you are looking for it. But if you are having any difficulties with overnight travel, please don't hesitate to contact the support team and they'll send you a really nice guide that we've put together on how that works. So I'm not going to get into that now just because of the time that we have, and you could spend a whole hour just on overnight travel alone. But please let them know if you are having any difficulties with it, and we're happy to help. So I'm going to move on to the route builder next. And this step, we didn't really do too much. We sort of did a little bit behind the scenes to make things work a little bit better and to make things load a little bit faster. But the rest of it and what you guys see hasn't changed too much. So the few things that we did, for example, is now if you have got from Cape Town to Element House is a self-drive and there are directions available, we do just have a little indicator to show you that so that you are aware that those options are there. And also now the directions button is stuck to the bottom of the screen. So if you have got the Cape Town to Element House and you click on the directions button, it will bring a pop-up for that particular arrangement. If there were other self-drive arrangements in this itinerary, they would be listed here as well, but I only have this one, so that is listed by itself. If you then open up the directions screen, it will show you the default routes that it has used, either based on what directions you have put in and saved or what the supplier has done. And here, all that you can do if you want to remove things is, as before, simply drag it. The turn-by-turn details on the right-hand side will update, and you can amend those if they are incorrect, and you can then save them for future use or only for this particular itinerary if you would like to not use it again. Another thing that we have done is bring Add Car Hire to the forefront as well. This was previously managed here as well as in the review screen, but now you can manage your car hire here. So if you add a car hire, you can now add multiple car hires and manage everything from inside of your route builder, not only from inside of your review screen. The details for entering transfers or for flights still work the same as before. Simply click on the icon next to the mode of transport and it will bring the pop-up screen that allows you to make those particular changes, and you can save them and those details will be saved for this itinerary. One thing that we have done or tried to do throughout the builder and throughout little things that we could implement to just make things a little bit easier is something that we try to do as much as possible. So here we have put an indicator in with the little trash bin. So if you are going to be removing a leg, it will tell you exactly which one you are so that you don't accidentally delete the wrong set of accommodation or routes. The rest of the details on the route builder are as they were before. There's not much else that we have done here that is particularly different. So I'm going to move on to the planner. As with the accommodation step, on the planner you have got a preview button, and you can now preview the accommodations if you didn't while you were in the accommodation step, or you can click on the preview eye next to the activity and it will also load and bring up the information for that activity and what is available for it. So you can then see the arrangements or information that's going to be displayed on your itinerary outputs. The ability for you to select a time slot, so either if it is morning, lunchtime, afternoon, dinner, or evening is still there, and if you have an exact time, you can click on the clock and enter a time there. You can also select whether it is a planned activity, a recommendation, an optional activity, or you just want to show information about it. And we have also just made highlight a little star, so if that is solid, it will then be selected as a highlight and it will show on the additional outputs of your itinerary builder. You now also have the ability to drag and drop activities and arrangements inside of the planner step to put things in chronological order. What happened previously and in the old itinerary builder was a lot of people would accidentally drag and drop and move things into the wrong place. So what we have done is put a small delay on the drag and drop functionality. It is really minute, but you'll notice that you have to click and hold for a little bit until it goes bold, and then you can drag and rearrange the activities or services that you have in your planner step to put them in the right order. If you are just trying to click and drag, it doesn't always work and it just highlights. So just make sure that when you are doing it, you click, it goes bold, and then you can drag and rearrange those. Something else that we have introduced is on your transport days, so days where you are checking out of one property and into another, you can now include product activities from both the property you are leaving and the one that you're about to check into. This is really nice if you have got an arrangement or an activity in that morning provided by the property before you check out. All that you need to do is click on the product activities button and it will list the activities loaded by the property that you are checking out of first, followed by what has been loaded by the property that you are checking into at the bottom. Again, you can just click on any of these and they will be added to your planner section, and then you can simply click and drag it to where it is applicable and included in the itinerary. On days where it is not a transport day and you are just at one property, it will then just list the product activities that are provided by that particular property. So on transport days is when you will have access to both. Something else we have done is the day room. Previously, when you added a day room to an itinerary, it would only show on your outputs. There was no way for you to check or remove a day room easily before. Now what happens is you add a day room just like before, and it will now be listed inside of your planner step. So simply type in the name of the property, you can save the details, and it will then add into your routing for that day, and you can then drag and drop it and place it where it is supposed to be. Adding components, adding destinations, and adding day routes happen in the same way that they did before. We've just moved things around a little bit to make the screen a little bit easier to navigate. Down here at the bottom, you can still add your information for daily information, for your expert tips, your inclusions, your exclusions, and your basis. And as mentioned before, these text fields now also have the option for you to use bold, italics, or underline. And again, you can click on the green expander button and it will pop open a bigger editing window for you to put all of the information in for each of your days. Or if it is grouped by destination, then it allows you to easily put your information in for that particular destination. So as with the previous itinerary builder, we do still save as you move along. However, we do have a lot more text fields and arrangements that you can tinker with inside of a particular step. So please make sure as you move along that you do still click your quick save button, and it will then save the itinerary for you as you move along. And you'll see we have a little slide down thank you for saving option that now shows at the top. So onto the review step. This was one of the steps that we actually did spend a little bit of time on, and it was actually the step that was built last. In all of our initial testing, we actually only had step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Because we weren't really too sure what we could do to make the review screen really easy and much better to use. So after a little bit of workshopping and a little bit more feedback from you who were original beta testers, thank you very much for that, we came up with this solution where we have taken the review step and broken it up into 3 chunks to sort of put together things that we think you would want to check at the same time. So starting off at the beginning of the review step is the itinerary overview, and what this is a summary of what you entered in the first and second step and a little bit extra information that you can now add. So depending on what you entered in itinerary details and the accommodation step, that is what information is displayed here. And as we move down, you'll see that there are visual indicators to help you with what content has been input by you while building the itinerary or is there by default. So anything that is missing, you can simply click on the pencil under Details button, and it will bring up a modal where you can then enter any of the information that you left out previously. As before, any details that you put in here will automatically update on the specific tab that it belongs to. So if you do decide to put room information here, so room types and room configuration, it will update in the accommodation step automatically, and you do not have to go back to that step and make sure that you amend it there as well. So after the accommodation, if you scroll down on the screen a little bit more, you will see that you can enter the travelers, any important contacts, and miscellaneous information for your pricing sheets if you use them. So the next step is just, or the sort of subcategory is just the summary of what is entered inside of your route builder. To show you an example, for the first transfer, I've entered into all of the information, and so it's got all of the blue tick indicators, but the others are missing that information, and that's why they are gray, and you'll see the same for the other details throughout here. Although we have brought the car hire option forward in the route builder, you do still have the ability to manage, edit, and add additional car hires here. Finally, at the bottom is the last of the travel details. So the more information that you've got, if you've got a number of flights or transfers, those will all be listed here. And then we move on to a summary of what you've entered in the planner. Again, there are just visual indicators for what information is available or what information has been entered for that particular service. And you can click on the green pencil button to open up the options to make any changes that you would then like to add into this. So as you scroll down, you'll see the arrangements per day that you can then have a look at and edit. So this review has been broken up into those 3 pieces to try and make it a little bit easier for you to go through step by step and make sure that you've entered in all of the relevant information that you would like to pass on to your clients before sending it on to them, or if you've made a copy of it and you have amended it, to make sure, again, another double check that you have got all the information in or out of it. The final step of the itinerary builder is the additional details step, where we have just moved things around a little bit again. On the top left-hand side of your screen, you have got a field called Introduction. This is exactly the same as what was Summary in the old itinerary. We've just changed the name to make it a little bit more intuitive for people who haven't been using the system that long. So Summary was a little bit misleading and people didn't really know where they would find it on their itinerary outputs. But now calling it Introduction, it is a little bit easier for people to find it on the digital itinerary or the virtual itinerary, the printable or the app. And it gives you a little bit clearer of an indication of what kind of information you can put in there. As it is another free text field, you can use bold, underline, or italics, and there's also an expander option if you have got quite a bit of text that you're going to be putting into Introduction. Next to this, we've got tags and labels. So as I mentioned, when we were in the itinerary browser, you can label and tag your itineraries simply by clicking on the options that will be listed here based on the tags that you have created in your admin panel, and those will now be assigned to this particular itinerary. You can just click on it again to unassign that tag from the itinerary. The final option that we've got here on the left-hand side is the upload option. So if you have any documents that you would like to attach to this itinerary, you can click on the plus sign, select the document from your local machine, and add it to the itinerary. This will only show on any of your digital outputs. So it's the virtual itinerary, the digital itinerary, and the mobile apps, as well as the mobile responsive version of your itinerary. So documents uploaded will show on those. They do not automatically add to your printable documentation if you pull that out. Then finally, at the bottom of the screen, we have got the different outputs for you that you can select from. The first one being the printable itinerary. And this was, as it was before, when you click on it, if you've got editing access, you can choose the arrangements of your particular printable itinerary for download. You can then also select whether you would like to download your vouchers, your print summary, your print directions, or your pricing sheets. These buttons are responsive based on the information entered in the itinerary. So if you haven't got dates, the voucher button will not be there because we only generate vouchers for dated itineraries. And if you do not have any self-drive arrangements and no directions, the print directions button will not be there. So it does react according to what information you've got inside of the itinerary. One of the new functionalities that we added that we're pretty excited about and hope that you guys will use is the email client link. So what this is a request that we had received quite a lot over the years, and we weren't really sure how to implement it until we started looking at what we were going to do for the new Itinerary Builder, and we were really excited that it was something that we could put in and release with the builder for you guys. So what it allows you to do is email your itinerary directly out of Wetu. You can enter the name of the client and who it is going to. You can select which email address it will be sent from. So you'll either have the option of the consultant who's logged in and building the itinerary, or the email address of the company. So because this is my demo account, both of the email addresses are the same, but yours would obviously differ depending on what information you got entered as the consultant as well as the company. Then we've got the subject line, and that is just view your itinerary followed by the name of the itinerary itself. This is just pre-populated to make it easy for you to send this out quickly, but if you would like to amend the subject line, it is free text, so you can simply highlight and remove what it is that you would like to change it to and just type it in. I'm going to just hop over the options of the templates because I'll come back to that, but you can also enter a message for the client directly. So each of the templates that we've created, there's 3 of them that you'll see over here in the drop-down menu. Each of those have got a section for that personalized message to go with it. And you can use, again, bold, underline, or italics to send that with. And the final option is for you to tick if you would like a copy of the itinerary to go to the email address that you have selected above. The reason for that, and this is something I would just like you to keep in mind, is that this email is going to be sent out of Wetu on your behalf. So if you are looking for this inside of your specific mailbox, inside of your sent items, you will not find it there because it leaves from our mail server. So if you do need a copy of it, you can click on that copy button and it will then send a copy to your inbox so that you can have it on file. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are using this. I'm going to open up our documentation quickly and take you through what the templates look like. So because this is our first crack at emailing, it was quite a challenge, and hats off to our design and development team because they spent quite a bit of time trying to get this right for you guys. We have got these 3 templates. So the first one is quite simple. You'll be able to have your logo and your branding on it, the personalized message that you have put together for your client, the basics that are included in the itinerary, including the trip summary, and then obviously the link to the itinerary that the client can then click on. There is the second option called the hero email template. The main difference here is, as you can see, that big hero image in the middle of the template, but again, it's got the same fundamental information as the one above. It's just laid out a little bit differently. And the final option is our sidebar email template, and this has got the information just in a little bit more of a different layout, but again, the same sort of information is included on this template. So we have tried to keep these as brand neutral as possible, and the reason for that is we would really like you guys to use this and give us your feedback on what you think we can do and how you would practically envision using something like this. That way, if we do take this further and we can add things such as customization, then we'll know how you use it and we'll be able to tailor make it accordingly. So these three options are what we've got for now. But as with everything in Wetu, we hope to develop it forward depending on how you guys make use of it. So that is just what the email client itinerary link button is for. And we hope that you guys will give it a try and let us know what you think. The other option on the screen are the same. You've got the client link that you will send off to your clients, and that is the tracked link that allows you to get those itinerary view notifications. We've got the 6-digit mobile code. So we launched the Android app a couple of months ago, and we've received some really great feedback from you guys, so thank you very much. And we're about to hopefully release the iOS app very soon, so we look forward to giving that to you guys as well. So those 6-digit codes go in either of those apps that you can download and pass on to your clients, so they can then travel with this itinerary on their mobile device. So from my side, that is it. That is the basics of the new Itinerary Builder. And